But these globalists have this idea in their head that we would be better off with one world government, one new world order. They really think that. That's their philosophy. They got it from their father, the devil.
One of the nice things about living in a free country like Canada or the United States is that you have the right to face your accuser. And in this case, my accuser is creationist, self-proclaimed doctor and expert on evolution, not to mention current guest of the federal prison system, Kent Hovind. Now, Hovind's got a lot of crackpot theories about evolution, and he has equal number of crackpot theories about atheists. But we'll just let the horse continue to speak.
Yes. The devil wants new world order so that he can control everybody. He really wants to wipe out humanity. So he's going to get these local idiots to think, hey, if we reduce the population to, 2 billion, then we'll be fine. Well, then he's going to wipe them out. That's what the devil will do. And these guys that are having all their clubs, the top secret meetings and all that, they really are serious, folks. And they've made a lot of progress. But they're not the real enemy. The real enemy. The real enemy is Satan behind all this. We've got to keep this in perspective. They want to lower world population levels quickly. And one of the biggest obstacles is the teaching of creationism. Because evolution is a foundation philosophy for communism, for socialism, for Marxism, for the New World Order. If there's a God, then you can't have a New World Order, because people have rights that come from God. So they have to eliminate the God concept. So there's a real discrimination against creationism.
It's when Hovind starts talking like this that I'm thoroughly convinced he's a long-lost brother of Glenn Beck, or maybe even Art Bell. Either way, it's nuts. Okay, that may sound like a bit of a cheap shot, but like I said, I get to face my accuser, and under those rights, I will now cross-examine Kent Hovind simply by using his own arguments. It's really important to understand exactly where guys like Hovind are coming from when they point the finger to the evil global conspiracy. In this case, we're talking about a man who believes that the New World Order consisted of Ted Turner, his wife Jane Fonda, the British royal family, the State of Israel, the ACLU, a group of current and present U.S. government officials, business leaders, and social activists. In May of 1999, he claimed the implementation of the NWO's world domination plan is May 5th, 2000. Sadly, the only NWO we saw around that time period was the horrible extension of the career of Hulk Hogan. Now keep in mind, this is a guy who believes that the U.S. government is keeping Laetrile, a cyanide-releasing compound, off the market to suppress a cure for cancer. In his radio program, he said the U.S. government was behind 9/11. And saying, quote, a lot of folks were told not to come to work. He also believes the Oklahoma City bomb was carried out by the government, saying, quote, did you know the federal government blew up their own building to blame it on the militias and get rid of some people who weren't cooperating with the system? And if you're wondering about my references to Jewish people in that last little clip, try to keep in mind that before he was sent to prison, on his traveling roadshows, Kent Hovind used to sell copies of the infamous anti-Semitic hoax Protocols of the Elders of Zion, a book which outlined a supposed plot by Jews to take over the world. Okay, understandably, going after Hovind for stuff like this is kind of like shooting fish in a barrel, so let's just move on. Because there's a whole other area we can cover when it comes to people attacking atheism. Take, for example, this little gem in the debate between the Rational Response Squad and Banana Boy and Crocoduck Man, a.k.a. Ray Comfort and Kirk Cameron.
Brian, you stated that you don't need to be religious or have a religion to be good. But looking at the test tube of history, if we want to look at atheistic nations, we have some ready-made experiments in the form of communist nations. And we find from communist nations that they killed off approximately 100 million of their own people. Is this a good example of atheists being good?
Ah, yes, the atheism leads to communism leads to mass murder fallacy. One of my personal favorites. Well, alright, I'll give this guy a break. After all, he looks like he's just some schmuck off the street who's asking this completely ludicrous question of some people who set up a group on the internet in the Rational Response Squad. It's not like somebody would ask this question of a well-respected academic like Richard Dawkins, right?
Now, We also differ in the sense that you feel that religion has been a bane, B-A-N-E, to civilization, and I feel atheism has. And I will point to the worst mass murderers in modern times: Hitler, Stalin, Mao, and Pol Pot. All confirmed atheists, all people who wanted to wipe out religion.
Alright, well, this is Bill O'Reilly, and let's face it, making ludicrous, one-sided observations like this is pretty much the only way he can get around getting into an actual debate with his intellectual superiors, by which I mean anyone with a 9th grade education or higher. So we can just move on from this one. I mean, it's not like Dawkins would find this kind of questioning on a more reputable television network like the CBC up in Canada.
If religion and belief in God has not been helpful, as you say, it's deluded people. Atheism doesn't exactly have a stellar record. I mean, societies that have tried to live without religion and God.
You're not going to bring out Hitler and Stalin again, are you?
I mean, you brought out fundamentalism for religion. Why is it not fair to try to use examples of societies that have tried to live without religion?
Are you seriously bringing up Hitler and Stalin?
Sadly, yes. That is precisely what this moron is doing. Bringing up some of history's most notorious tyrants in an attempt to discredit atheism. Well, there's an old saying, you gotta nip the thing in the bud. And that's precisely what I'm gonna do here. You know what the only thing better than a pompous blowhard is? It's an uneducated pompous blowhard. In this case, O'Reilly is bringing up 3 of the most notorious tyrants in human history as a way of justifying an argument against atheism. It's time for a little history lesson here, Bill. Now, no one's going to deny that these 3 men killed tens of millions of people, but they certainly didn't do it in the name of atheism. The gulags, the killing fields, the executions, this was all done with one purpose: power. Getting it, maintaining it, and suppressing any opposing viewpoint, a practice that continues to this day in China.
Now, I know you can point to the Crusades.
Oh, you're darn right I'm bringing up the Crusades here, Billy boy, but not for the reasons you think. Besides the obvious logistical problems of transporting, supplying, and maintaining an army from Europe all the way into the Middle East, we're comparing 2 completely different eras in technology. Do you really think that if the Crusaders had access to carpet bombing Islamic cities, or using artillery on their fortresses, that the casualty rate would have been lower? Do you think that the battlefield would have been any less bloody had the Crusaders been using machine guns and poison gas? We're comparing crossbows and catapults to gunpowder and high explosives. What I'm getting at here is the difference in the casualty rate is not because of a lack of enthusiasm on the part of the Holy Crusaders. They simply did not have access to the mass murder capabilities that the 20th century technology granted men like Stalin and Mao and Pol Pot. But let's take this line of thinking that atheism is the common link and therefore the cause, and apply it to another part of human history. Specifically, the 400 years following Columbus's landing and what happened to the native peoples in the Western Hemisphere. From the Spanish conquistadors to the American cowboys, an estimated 40 million Native Americans died in the ensuing centuries following Columbus's famous landing. From the destruction of the Inca and Mayan civilizations to the complete extermination of the Beothuk tribe on Newfoundland, the European settlers responsible for this massacre all had one thing in common. Cheap shot? Oh, you'd better believe it. But when you bring up the correlation equals causation fallacy, you'd better be prepared to take one below the belt in rebuttal. And I know, I've left one name out in this list here. And there's a reason for that. And that reason is because the mere mention of this guy's name, or just by applying a tiny mustache to a picture of someone you dislike, instantly brings up images born of nightmares. And that's why he's not here. Because I'm not going to give you just 1 or 2 minutes. No. I am going to dedicate the entire next part of this series of videos to guys like Ray Comfort, Ben Stein, and any of these other creationist or intelligent design hacks who would dare bring up the name history's greatest monster in an attempt to discredit atheists. Bring your Pepto-Bismol.